Think about the most honest person you know, the one who always tells the truth, who says exactly what they feel, who refuses to hide anything because they believe transparency is a virtue. Now ask yourself, how much power do they actually have? Most people will tell you honesty is the foundation of respect, that people trust you more when you're open, that raw truth is what separates the strong from the weak. But here is what they never tell you. Honesty, used without strategy, is not strength. It is exposure. And in a world where people are watching, judging, and calculating, exposure is not a gift you want to give for free. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will completely change how you see every conversation you've ever had. The first truth you must understand is this: honesty was never designed to protect you. It was designed to protect the people listening to you. When you tell someone exactly what you think, exactly what you feel, exactly what your next move is, you are not building connection. You are handing them a map that shows where you are, where you're going, and exactly how to stop you. Think about every time you've been completely honest with someone and it didn't go the way you expected. You told your boss how you really felt. They used it against you. You told a friend your plans. They subtly talked you out of them. You told someone you trusted your fears. And suddenly those fears seem to show up in arguments designed to shrink you. This is not a coincidence. This is human nature. People do not receive your honesty and think, how can I protect this person? They receive it and think, what does this tell me about their weakness? The second psychological law most people violate every single day is this: information is currency, and most people spend it all before they need it. There is a reason the most powerful figures in history, generals, kings, negotiators, were never fully transparent. Not because they were dishonest people, but because they understood something most people in your life will never teach you. Mystery creates leverage. When people don't know everything about you, they have to work to figure you out. They pay attention, they stay engaged. They assign you value, because the brain automatically treats things it doesn't fully understand as high-value information. The moment you explain yourself completely, your reasoning, your feelings, your intentions, you remove the mystery. And the moment the mystery is gone, so is the power. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were deeply fascinated by someone who told you everything about themselves on the first conversation? You weren't. Because full transparency collapses intrigue. And without intrigue, people stop paying attention. But here is where things become even more dangerous. Honesty doesn't just cost you mystery, it costs you options. When you tell someone what you want, you lose the ability to want something else without looking inconsistent. When you tell someone what you think, every future thought you have will be measured against it. When you tell someone how you feel, those feelings become weapons in the wrong argument at the wrong time. Most people don't realize they are building a case against themselves every time they open their mouth with full transparency. They think they are building trust. What they are actually building is a record, and records can be used against you. The third mistake most people make is confusing being honest with being respected. These are not the same thing. Respect does not come from telling people everything. Respect comes from how much you guard what you share and what you choose to reveal, and when. There is a man who walks into every room and tells everyone exactly what he's thinking. He wants you to know his opinions, his plans, his frustrations, his desires. No one respects him, not because he is dishonest, but because he has made himself entirely readable. And readable people are predictable. Predictable people are boring. Boring people are forgettable. Then there is the man who sits across the table and says very little. When he speaks, he says exactly what needs to be said. and nothing more. No one can fully predict what he'll do next. No one knows exactly where he stands on every issue. He makes people curious. He forces people to lean in. That man controls every room he enters, not through force, not through volume, but through controlled information. The power was never in saying more. The power was always in saying less. Now, understand this. This is not about lying. Lying is for amateurs. Lying creates enemies and destroys trust over time. This is about something far more sophisticated. Strategic silence, the deliberate choice about what information is worth sharing, with whom, and at what time. The best negotiators in history never lied. They simply did not volunteer information that weakened their position. The most admired people you've ever met were not dishonest. They were just selective. They understood that everything you say either builds your position or weakens it. And once you start seeing every conversation through that lens, things shift dramatically. The fourth psychological principle you need to hear is this. The need to be understood is one of the most exploitable weaknesses a human being can have. Most people are honest, not because they are noble. They are honest because they need to be understood. They explain themselves. They justify their choices. They overshare their reasoning because somewhere deep inside, they believe that if people just understood them fully, they would be accepted, respected, safe. But here is the brutal reality. Nobody is sitting around waiting to fully understand you. Most people are constructing the version of you that is most useful to their own narrative. When you give them raw information, they don't process it objectively. They filter it through their own interests, biases, and agendas. The more you explain, the more material you give them to distort. The less you explain, the less they can use against you. This is why the most powerful response to most accusations, criticisms, and provocations is silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your silence forces them to guess. And a person who is guessing is a person who is reacting to you, not you reacting to them. That is the difference between control and chaos. The fifth truth, and this one most people are not ready to face, is that radical honesty is often a form of arrogance disguised as virtue. When someone tells you they just say it as it is, they are not being noble. They are prioritizing their own comfort, the comfort of not filtering themselves, over the impact of their words on every situation around them. True discipline is not saying everything you think. True discipline is knowing what to say, how much to say, and when to stay silent. Anybody can speak. That requires no skill. But the person who can hold an important thought, feel a strong emotion, know a damaging truth, and choose not to deploy it until the exact right moment. That person operates at a completely different level. That is not dishonesty. That is mastery. Now let's talk about what you should actually do instead. Because this is not a call to become cold, closed off, or deceptive. It is a call to become deliberate. Start paying attention to why you share information. Ask yourself before you speak, am I saying this because it serves me, or because I cannot hold it in? Start protecting your plans. The mind that announces what it's going to do before it does it invites interference, doubt, and sabotage. Sometimes from people who don't even realize they're doing it. Start measuring your words in high-stakes environments. Not every room deserves your truth. Not every person has earned access to your real thoughts. Your honesty is not something everyone is entitled to receive. And start studying what happens when you say less. You'll notice something strange at first. People start asking more questions. They become more curious about you. They listen more carefully when you do speak. The weight of your words increases, because weight is always inversely proportional to volume. The less you say, the more every word lands. The final truth brings everything together. You were taught from childhood that honesty is always the right path. And in a perfect world, it might be. But the world you live in is not a classroom. It is a complex, layered environment full of people who are constantly reading you, calculating their next move and deciding how much access to give you based on how much access you give them. The people who have real influence, in business, in relationships, in social dynamics, are not the most transparent people in the room. They are the most intentional. They choose what to reveal and what to protect. They understand that trust is built not by pouring everything out, but by making someone feel like they are getting something real, something chosen, something rare. That is a different kind of honesty. Not the kind that spills everything, but the kind that gives people exactly what they need to trust you, and nothing more. Once you start living by these principles, something quietly shifts. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop justifying yourself to people who were never going to understand anyway. You stop giving away your energy, your plans, and your position before you've had a chance to move. And people start to notice. Not because you've become mysterious on purpose, but because you've finally stopped making yourself an open book in a world full of people looking for chapters they can use against you. The most dangerous person in any room is never the loudest one. It is the one you cannot read. And now that you know this, the question is simple. How much have you already given away? And starting today, what are you going to keep? If this shifted how you see things, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go even deeper, the next video will show you exactly how the most strategic people in history controlled perception without saying a single false word. You'll want to see that.